Quoting up a web design project can be really, really time consuming. And of course, you may not actually land the project at the end. So it's really important to automate everything that you can in a business in order to optimize. But obviously, project quoting seems to be something that has such a complexity with so many variables. It's actually difficult to do that. And even if you're trying to optimize it, you can still throw away an hour quoting up a project for someone. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can do it in just minutes using your favorite LLM, although I would recommend Claude for this. And you're going to be able to come away from this with a free PDF of a scoping sheet. Now, we're going to run through that scoping sheet. It's something that has quite a level of complexity, and I'd like to actually talk about quoting and scoping, or scoping and quoting, in other videos, to be honest. But we'll have a little run through the different elements that I would scope and quote for, and which inform the output of the LLM at this point. And it's up to you how you want to optimize this. You can take things off that sheet if you're not comfortable with charging for an onboarding, for example. The good thing about this, though, it's really utilizing AI for its strengths. You can have a conversation with AI. You can change things a little bit out of the scope sheet and it's going to account for them or provide a bit of deeper knowledge. And the fact that it just spits out a ready to go PDF, maybe not styled as much as you'd like, but the PDF is ready to go. You can present that to the client. It has all of the different in-depth information. You'll be impressed by what this spits out, and it's just in minutes. So we're going to run through. We'll run through doing a quick quote on screen, and then we'll go a bit more in depth on the actual scoping sheet. Personally, like I say, it feels like it's really in depth, and you might not be comfortable with charging for project management or onboarding meetings and things like that. I think it's best for it to be there. And for the client to see it, and then you can actually say, I'm waiving that fee because of our relationship. I'm waiving it because I'd like this project. If that's what you want to do as part of a sell, then it's good for them to see the added value, and it's good for them to see that in black and white. The other thing this does, though, is that especially when it represents an hourly estimate, it does show a client just how much work goes into something. And this is something to talk about more in other scoping videos. How do you do scoping and quoting? What do you quote for? What do you include in that? But it's really important that the client sees that you're not just getting a website to them. You're putting in hours of work and preparation, and even just setting up a dev site could take an hour or two. Depending on how you do it. It's good for them to see that represented on paper. So again, if you do waive that fee, they at least see the value in that. So let's not yap on anymore. Let's jump over to Claude. This is my preferred LLM for this. And this is as simple as or as complex as the brief has to be. So I'm creating a brochure website. It will consist of the homepage, about page, sectors page. Don't know why I've got a comma there. Contact page, 3 legal pages. There will be a team section with 10 members and services with 4 different services. There will be reviews with 10 items. Here is my scoping sheet. Okay, so you're going to be able to download this. I'll give this scoping sheet to you, and you can change it out for your own business details. And we'll look at that more in depth in a minute. But let's just see what this starts to spit out. So hit go on that. It has the brief, it has the scoping sheet, and it's going to clarify a few things for us. So looking at your project against the scoping sheet, here's how it breaks down. We've got base pages, totally right on those. We've got main CPT and small CPT. So that will make sense when we look at the scoping sheet, and I'll tell you why they're different. But we've got a main CPT being services, and then team and reviews being the small CPT, and questions to complete the quote. Okay, so let's get typing here. Hourly rates. Obviously, you might want to vary your hourly rate. You could fix that onto the sheet, of course. I vary my hourly rate depending on who I'm working with. As part of business networking and relations. So yeah, let's bung £60 in there for this one. Project management standard urgency is normal. Okay, let's just keep it nice and simple. Content provision. Okay, so yeah, client provided. Let's keep it simple for this quote, okay? But it does account for gathering of images or copywriting, okay? So you can add that in there. All of that is in the scoping sheet. Additionals required, SEO and analytics, okay? Just so we can see how that shows on the sheet. That's it. That's the additional info that we need. So the scoping sheet has on it some items which are TBS, so to be specified, and that's what it's asking me for there. Okay, so here we have hourly rate is 60. It's just confirming all of the different items, and core project breakdown. So it's going through the different phases. Okay, so you know, if you charge for the discovery phase, this represents what that might look like in terms of hours, and then there's an hourly rate applied to that. So we've got a cost for discovery. Then we've got a base project fee. So this is web installation setup. These are things that people forget to charge for, but look, that's 2.5 hours of your life. It's 2.5 hours of one of your work days. You know, that should be reflected in the quote. Then we've got launch deliverables. Again, these are things that people don't actually charge for. You know, moving to a live server, handling the DNS, ensuring email is coming through from, say, the contact forms, setup of various plugins. Now we're in the actual sort of like creation process, and we've got wireframing laid out there. Just want you to note, again, we'll look at the scoping sheet. Just want you to note that it's including the CPTs there. So it's accounting for the fact that there is a main CPT, and it's adding in there a wireframe for the single template. So that's just completely dynamic from what's been provided. Then we've got the mock-ups, and again, these are set visuals that would be there in any of the projects, but it is again accounting for the fact that there is a CPT there, and it's including those in the visuals, because the client would generally want to see something like that. Then we've got content and images. Even if you're not providing the images and the copy, which you always should, you know, there is processing and optimization for all of that. So that is in the scoping sheet. And then we got the actual development, and you know, obviously it's breaking it down. We've got homepage, which is where you're going to put a lot more time designing and creating those initial elements, creating components that you'll use across the site. So that obviously takes a longer portion of time. Then we've got the other pages. So the about, sectors, and contact pages, and 3 legal. Okay, so that's 2 hours per page. Now, 3 legal are not going to take that long. I usually waive the fee for that, to be honest, or diminish it, but I like the client to see that that's happening. Then we got the main CPT, and we need to account for the archive and single and grid listing development of templates, and then content addition for each item. Okay, so once you've got it templated, it does take time to add all of the content once it's been provided. And then we've got the same for small CPTs. And look at that, subtotal for the development. We've got an hourly recommendation of an hourly estimate of the time and an appropriate cost for that. So, you know, again, this is quite conservative in terms of estimates and what you would charge as well. But, you know, this reflects just that development time. This is often what people charge for. They forget all of this, but you know, look at how many hours that would be of your time. Project management. So this is something I didn't used to do, but I think it's a really good thing to do. There is time in project management, and so yeah, 5% of the total fee is quite a good standard, I think. It also splits it out into a payment structure. Obviously, you might want to change that on your own sheet, but this is something that I've settled with quite happily. If you're happy to take monthly payments, that is, of course. And then we've got the project additionals. So look at it. It's just adding all of this information, planned it all out, really nice. Yeah, absolutely great. Chucked in the ongoing costs as well. Cool. Right, let's Please create a PDF for presentation. Cool. Now, obviously, you can brand up your PDF, you can provide a logo and do lots of funky stuff. But let's just see what it spits out here. Okay, cool. So here we are with the actual PDF that is presented, and this isn't branded or anything. You can brand it up. You can add some other bits in there, but we've got a really great project scope here. We've got the hourly rate if you want people to know that. You've got project management. You can tweak this as you want, but within minutes we have all of these itemized aspects of the project all perfectly represented here. Now, if you don't want to charge for discovery, if you don't want to charge for a base project fee, if you're not comfortable doing that, it's at least good for clients to see that there is that amount of time that goes into the project and a fair cost that goes with that. But it's better for them to see it and then you waive it as a favor, as added value, if that's what you wish. But yeah, this is all looking really great. It's well presented to the client. Payment structure options, all there, ready to go. And then we've got the project additionals. Yeah, all of the final info. Now, whenever I have double checked all of these numbers, it's always been correct. Obviously, double check your numbers, take a few minutes. But when this has saved you a good couple of hours, a few minutes just double checking a few numbers doesn't seem too bad at all, does it? Okay, so that's the kind of output that you can expect from this. You can ask it to go a bit more in depth, or you can give further project information, and it does that. It gives suggestions and alternatives. But let's actually have a look at the sheet itself, just so you can see what this is. You'll be able to download it and change it all that you want. Now, it's pretty simple. It's just the different phases of a web design project. And then an hourly estimate. Now, you might not want to charge by the hour, and I would encourage you to, eventually not do that. But it's kind of the first way that we might do it as we start to understand how we work. Of course, as you speed up in your work process, you don't want to, and you shouldn't diminish or reduce how much you're charging. So, get an hourly estimate. Set these prices, and you should remain at those prices. But here we are. We've just got discovery, which includes basic, business research process, 1 hour competitor research. Obviously, these are, it would take longer than that, but the basic stuff that you want to do: content and branding elements, obtaining and gathering, meetings and processes. So onboarding, 1 hour. So this is what you might want to cover in the onboarding, but I've just put an hour there for the actual meeting, for example. And then you've got an hour for quoting, but we just saved 50 minutes off that anyway. So all of that time is accounted for on this sheet, and then we move on to base project fees. Now, what is the base project fee? There is an initial setup of a development environment, of getting color sets and sizing and branding globals. It's just representing that in time, and this is all quite, it's just sketched together. But then something that people forget to charge for a lot is the time it takes to actually get a site live, and the time does add up. It can be a whole morning at least to get a site actually migrated. That might take you half an hour, but there are lots of checks, being diligent about the work you're doing, adding any of the security plugins and things like that. That should be reflected in your scope and quote. So yeah, this is a standard set 9 hours according to all of this. And then we've got wireframing. Again, a lot of people don't actually charge for this. In truth, wireframing can become quite intuitive, and so this might be something that you reduce a little bit for your client if you're doing more of a standard brochure website, and and you say to them, I'm not going to present you with wireframes, we're not going to do all these design reviews and things like that. If you trust me, if you're willing to let me take lead on this, I can be more intuitive and let me get you the results. So it depends how you want to do it. But this is a bit of guidance to all of that, and it's accounted for in the total time and how many wireframes you might have. So I mentioned that if a CPT is included, it's going to tweak the wireframing and add those in for you. So example, 10-page website consisting of 5 base pages and 1 CPT would be 6 wireframes, and that's 6 times the hourly rate. So total cost is base page number plus 1 per main CPT. Then we got the mock-ups and visuals. Again, people don't really kind of charge for that. I think one of the reasons a lot of people don't really charge for that is because they go straight to the page builder. I've certainly done that a lot. But there is something to be said about taking visuals to a client, having them, scoff about it and all of that. It stops you having to do a lot more work with shifting around in templates. So I've put here that as a standard homepage template, the header and the contact form are presented in essential mockups, and then per CPT item we've got a single post template and then a grid card example. So the grid that might show in the blog grid, we would show them what that would look like. What's the box shadow, what color is it, how is the heading, what does the button look like if you have one. Important for the client to see it just so they can mess up your design, really. They have to have that opportunity. If you've included e-commerce, we have a few items that do need to be added in there. So we've got the shop page and the carousel grid block, obviously, archive page and single product page. So e-commerce is a CPT system, so it needs the single page accounted for and the archive page. It might have added complexity, but that's why it's 2 hours. And then you've got the shop page, obviously. Now, there are other pages, clearly, like the checkout and the basket and the my account page and things. Okay, content, copy and images. Now, there's a real debate. Should clients be creating their own copy? Not really. If they want it to work in ChatGPT and AI, and if they want it to have SEO value, then no. But at least in the UK, a lot of clients really seem to feel that they're not only web designers, but they're copywriters and might even be photographers. Generally, it's not going to do the website any good. It makes it so you can't really use it as a portfolio item, but a lot of them, when you present them with the cost of this is a very humble cost, they might opt out and say they'll do it themselves. That is accounted for in this scope machine. So professionally provided copy, 1 page CPT, 500 words, £50, and it would calculate that. So 10-page website would be £500 for the copy provided. But yeah, you've got to figure out how you want to run with that, to be honest. We're ready to start developing the website in this scoping sheet, and we've moved on to development. We handle the custom post types. Main CPTs. I said I would explain about main CPTs and small CPTs. In truth, every different bit of information that you have on your site should be categorized into its own post type. So reviews or teams or even FAQs, that they would be perhaps small custom post types, in that you don't need them to have a single post template. But then we have main CPTs. So these need to have a single post template where people would click through to it and view each item full screen. And so these obviously need more work. A main CPT would be things like case studies, blogs and news, services, 14 profiles, courses and training, all of that sort of thing. Locations and stores. This is actually really quite essential for stores and local SEO. So that really should be the case if you have a business with multiple locations. Cool. So it specifies that more in the sheet. So, this will make sense to you. You don't need me to read it out to you as such. But adding the content to, each CPT item, I've put here as 45 minutes, which is copy and paste of provided content. And then we've got small CPTs. So these don't need a single post template. So things such as these. So most of the time, the AI, the LLM will, if you mention FAQs or reviews, it will lean on this and just want some confirmation. But yeah, the task consists of creating the CPT itself, the fields, the display. Something I don't have in the scope sheet actually is the use of particular plugins and charging for those. It's only occurred to me right this second that that should be in there. So yeah, things like ACF Pro should be an essential. You should be charging for a Bricks license or whatever page builder you're using. So that needs to be sort of defined. So e-commerce, the full e-commerce process here is added, and that works out well. Then we've got things like project management, project urgency, payment structures. These are things you may well want to change. And then we've got hosting and maintenance and things like that. So this is also where you'd add things like page builder licenses and ACF Pro. Project additionals. So do they want SEO or lead magnets, analytics? These are things that you can add fixed prices in for them, and they will just tack onto the end of the project process. And then lastly, we've got how to use, and this is actually a bit of direction to the LLM. This didn't work so well without a specific how to use. So it just gives a bit of guidance on the process. TBS is about to be specified, and and how all of that is actually put together. So this is something I just added more recently because it refined the process of creating the project brief. It should ask how many items if you haven't specified it, or whether it's main or small, just to confirm it. And then you can guide the output here, and the LLM actually takes notice of you. So that's a little walk through the actual scoping sheet. This is what I've got available for you for download. So just follow the link in the description below, and it's going to give you a really nice output in just minutes from the most simple website brief. Now, obviously, later on you're going to further define things on the project, but that's all you need to do to get an immediate quote to a client. And it's one that spells out the value of what they're getting in terms of hours spent and the planning and the preparation. Just show you quickly that this works well with ChatGPT as well. So try it out in a few different LLMs, and I think you'll be pleased with the kind of output that it's giving you, and the time that it saves. So anyway, you don't need me to go on any further on it. Grab this for yourself, follow the link, download it, optimize it for your own business. It's going to save you hours, and hopefully it's also going to help you charge more for the work that you are actually doing. Right, cool. I'm Chris. I'll see you soon. Cheers.